Comic Book Logic.
Honor of the Superman podcast, we should actually have a 20-minute introduction, like where it's just the fanfare playing before we get into any sort of content. Jesus, watching that movie, I was just like, will this movie ever start?
You know,
you got nothing.
I got nothing. They feel a little crooked. I'm messing with my headphones here. That's all right. I'll live. Or I'll just rip them off halfway through in frustration.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Logic. I'm your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Kevin.
Hello.
Today, we're doing a special supplemental one. We decided to take a break from the Marvel Universe and dipped our toe into the DC Universe for the 1978 Richard Donner classic, Superman!
The 1978 DC Universe, which was one movie, followed by 3 sequels.
Not to mention the 1966 Batman TV show and the 1972 Wonder Woman TV show.
Oh.
Yes.
I guess we could, yeah.
There's a whole universe right there, yeah. With the love of my life, Linda Carter.
Yes.
One day I'll be able to travel back in time. Get in on that. So, Kevin, we're going to start off as we always do. What did you know about Superman before you got into this movie?
Before I saw this movie as a child the first time? Probably nothing. This is probably where I learned. I was born in 1982.
Well, let's
to age myself here.
We just watched it recently, but before you rewatched it,
before I rewatched it,
did you know anything about like
sure?
How what's your depth of Superman knowledge?
I feel like I know almost as much, oddly, about Superman as I did or do at this point about Batman. Kind of going in because I don't feel like there was a lot to know.
He dances and then he fights Cesar Romero. That's what
the Batusi.
He does the Batusi.
I feel like there's not a lot of depth
nope.
to pop culture, to mainstream popular culture Superman. It's Superman, he's from Krypton, he flies around, he has all the powers.
You pretty much nailed it right there.
Whatever else you need.
Yeah. You know about all the supporting characters and everything. You know, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen.
The big ones. I even know, and I knew this going into the movie because of last year talking about Superman Return. Last year or 2 years ago, whenever we did that, the Superman, not the Superman Returns, the Death of Superman.
Death of Superman
comic book podcast. And I found out that Jimmy Olsen used to dress up as a turtle, which he does not do in this film.
No,
which
he does
I
not.
was very disappointed to not see a turtle costume. So that's sort of my Superman deep cut. But otherwise,
Superman deep cut.
Otherwise, it's the surface. I know what everyone's parents know about Superman.
Yeah, I mean,
Superman hung out with Richard Pryor briefly.
That's after this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So Superman is kind of considered to be the first of the cape and tights superheroes. First debuted in 1938 in Action Comics #1.
Action Comics.
If you find a copy of it, it's worth a little something.
Send it to Planet Arbitrary.
Send it to Nicolas Cage. He has like 4 copies of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, before we get too deep into it, if you have an opportunity to track down the documentary The Death of the... What is it called? It's The Death of the Return of Superman. I think that's what the documentary is called. It's the making of the 90s Superman movie. The Death of Superman Lives. That's what it is.
Okay.
The 90s movie Superman Lives that was supposed to be directed by Tim Burton.
Right.
Written by Kevin Smith. There are just I've seen clips of it.
I've seen the photos, like the test screening photos of Nick Cage.
Oh my God. there's a moment where you could literally see, where you could literally see Tim Burton just like go, what am I doing? And I'll get a little
please
bit.
stop me.
I'll get a little bit more into that, maybe a little bit later in the podcast. But yeah, he debuted in 1938. Originally, Superman did not have the power to fly. He was basically could jump really high.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but all
Not
of
as cool.
yeah, and he's been in tons of different media. I went through and just looked at the live action productions of Superman. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 versions of Superman, live action Superman, before Christopher Reeves ever put on the tights.
Wow.
Yeah. Probably most famous is the George Reeves from the Superman TV show from 1951 to 1958.
Sure.
Yeah, including Superman versus the Mole Men, which is the
Yes.
You sometimes see that poster pop up every once in a while, like
Classic campy goodness right there.
at a Portillo's. You see it on the wall.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and not including the radio show where he was, famously. That's where you get Kryptonite. You get Perry. Why can't I think of his name? You get Jimmy Olsen.
Perry Mason.
Not Perry Mason. That's why I got confused for a second. I'm gonna have to figure this out and then dub it back in. But that's where you get the Daily Planet and all of that stuff from there. Yeah.
So that came from the radio show. Didn't come from the comics.
It did not come from the comics. In fact,
Interesting.
the interesting things about the comics is it's very movie based. The comics were originally really heavily based on movies. Clark Kent, the name Clark Kent himself comes from Clark Gable and what's the guy's name? Kent Taylor, who I did not know
don't
before.
know.
He's
So
one
I
of those,
couldn't help you.
You would be the one person that I would assume would know who Kent Taylor is.
No.
But that's where the name Superman's alter ego Clark Kent comes from, is Clark Gable and Kent Taylor. And Metropolis, the name itself actually does come from the Fritz Lang movie Metropolis.
Okay.
So
yeah.
you're like, oh, Metropolis. Eh?
That one I know.
I've
that
seen.
does explain the giant robots that he always has to fight.
and the big clock he has to move
Yes.
all the time. It's the only thing I can't sit through Metropolis. I tried doing it like twice, and I'm like, I'm not high enough to appreciate this movie in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, if I didn't already mention it, Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel were the original creators of Superman. Very famously, they've gotten into lawsuits that have spanned decades over the ownership of Superman.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the Sonny Bono laws, with copyright and ownership materials of comic book properties, like who actually creates it and who owns it.
Damn you, Sonny.
I believe it was they sold the original one. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe it was somewhere like paltry sum of like $130 they got for Superman, creating Superman. Oof. And Superman, arguably one of the most culturally recognized icons next to Coca-Cola and McDonald's worldwide.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Mickey Mouse.
And
because we all know the Nazis loved Mickey Mouse. Mm-hmm. They did not like Superman, though he does have his name origins in Nietzsche. But
well, they were always trying to create, Nazi Aryan Supermen.
Yes, it's
so maybe
Ubermensch,
just to replace ours.
And some of the funny things is that Superman was originally created as, and Simon and Schuster, Siegel and Schuster were Siegel and Schuster were Jewish growing up, and Superman was very Jewish in his origins. He comes from Samson. He comes from a lot of biblical stories of the Superman of the Bible. He has very dark hair. He's not the blonde hair, blue-eyed Superman that you'd think the Nazis would like, but he's more, I guess, I don't know what the proper term would be, but he's more ethnic looking than most. He's an alien in a strange world, like two immigrants who come over to America.
Yeah.
And he was originally a fighter for the people. He wasn't really designed to fight like giant robots. I believe in his first adventure, he fights a crooked landlord and throws him out the window. That's what he did. Like,
I told you to fix the toilet.
It's like, could you think of more like New York style like revenge stories that Superman could do? I mean, like, like he goes and fights a guy who owns a deli because he skimped him on his meat. It's...
Right. You're fixing the scales.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't give me enough bagels. Punches him in the face.
I asked for the dark rye.
Yeah, exactly. Not the marbled
You're
rye.
holding out on the dark rye.
Okay.
Well, as I come down here, I'm looking for...
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
There you go.
All right, so now we're gonna do our recap of the movie,
Yeah.
and we're gonna
I
split
can start
this
us
one.
off.
Yeah, Kevin started off, and then
I literally stopped taking notes at some point during the film, but
So
I'm
we'll-
not sure
we'll let-
how far.
we'll have to figure out where I will have to catch up because I did take notes while writing it.
Okay. So we open up. Obviously, we open up on this movie with the Action Comics sort of newsreel thing. Someone says,
very
Xanadu.
bizarre. Yeah. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree. Charles Foster Kane dead.
Marlon Brando getting top billing, which I thought was great.
Well, yeah.
He must have insisted on that one. That was probably some Brando business.
I mean, we'll go into it with production, but his payday for this movie was legendary.
The lengthy opening credits we were talking about, I think,
Oh my
before we
God.
started recording, flying by all
But you got
super like,
The-
the big John Williams score, kind of Star Warsy.
that John Williams score is probably one of my favorite parts of this movie.
The opening
the
credits,
theme, yeah.
the opening credits that we were talking about before I think we started recording.
They
just,
go on for. I think I timed it. It was like 7 minutes, and it just like it starts off great. It's like that bum ba bum 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 bum
Yeah.
bum 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 bum, and it
Yeah.
gets you all excited. And then
John Williams, you're
dun,
ready to go. You're ready to
da-da-da-da-da. Something I learned about that John Williams wrote that bum ba ba. That's originally he wrote that by saying Superman. It goes on from that, and you go, and then you're getting really pumped, and you're like, "This is amazing." And then by the time that the assistant key grip's name comes up, you're just like, "Jesus, let's get this over with."
I don't know. It's not off to a great start, but it's I don't know if that. I mean, if it was like a Star Wars influence, like they wanted to have that big slow opening crawl, and they thought. I mean, even Star Wars doesn't take that long to get started.
No,
but
and the thing is that Star Wars, Lucas got in a lot of trouble because he did not put any credits before the movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the credits are at the end of the movie, and it was the first one that really did that. He
Yeah.
got in a lot of trouble for that, and it's at that point when you're watching Superman and you're getting through this, you're like, thank God for George Lucas did something right. as much as I loved him in all the way up until 1999 when he did Episode 1, that was like I think his biggest contribution to the film world.
so. We open up on Krypton, obviously.
we open up
Once
to-
we finally get into the damn movie,
We go to Deborah Harry's version of Krypton.
Krypton's there. Brando is arguing about. So there's Zod. Zod is a bad
Zod,
guy.
Nod,
We don't
and-
get a ton of backstory on what the hell's going on right there, but we know a little bit of it. They've done some bad things.
Yeah, Zod led a rebellion, is what
Yeah.
they say in the movie.
He's super bad,
rebellion.
and they need to be sentenced to whatever.
They get
They're bad.
sentenced to be into an iPad, is what it was.
They're gonna put into a space square.
That is one of my favorite moments in the movie, is when you have the giant floating heads going, guilty, guilty.
Yeah, the council.
The council.
They say guilty, and they all point one at a time at their giant faces.
It's so
and they
good.
go guilty. And so they request that Brando then they get put into an
iPad.
iPad and launched into
Into
space,
space.
and are not seen for the rest of the movie. So
No,
really
well, they're
bizarre.
seen once more in the movie. After the rocket leaves Krypton, it flies past the giant floating iPad, and they're like, "Hey!"
We're still in this square. Why are we in this freaking square? So then, just to be, he helps them out, and then it's like, hey, Brando, we want you to join our new order. You got to join the new order. But Brando's says no. I'm not having any of this.
Well, you got well. First of all, let's give credit where credit's due. Zod, played by Terrence Stamp. Just like Terrence Stamp knows what movie he's in right now, and he's got this like look in his face that's just like, you have betrayed all that is Krypton, and everyone is like, holy, like we have no idea what's going on right there.
No.
I mean, I imagine that someone in 1978 had no clue what the hell was going on at the beginning of that movie.
It was very confused. I had no idea what was going on in 2015.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And yeah, then they're like, Zod goes, you must be part of us. We'll stand side by side together. And Brando's like, I don't think so. I'm a little tired. I'll go get a sandwich.
But he says, now they've got to evacuate the planet.
Yes, because
he knows some bad shit is coming. Mm-hmm. The planet's gonna explode, I guess. And he knows, and for some reason nobody else seems to know this, and they all just say like, "It's fine, it'll blow over."
It's a little chicken.
Climate change is a hoax.
Exactly. I was gonna say it's a little Chicken Little, where it's like the sky isn't falling. Come on.
So they're like, they're gonna go in. They're supposed to leave the planet, but I mean, I guess they don't. So they get their baby.
He's forbidden to leave the planet.
Oh,
you,
okay.
Jor-El, are forbidden to leave this planet. I'd be like, how are you going to stop me if I leave the planet?
Exactly. I don't understand why he can't leave the planet, but he's got rules, I guess. So they put their baby.
Yeah, little baby,
little Kal-El.
Kal-El.
Kal-El. Superman's a better name. Clark is slightly a better name, maybe. They give him the little golden. This fucking. I have my notes here, and every time I touch the screen, Evernote likes to just like take up half the screen with my text editor. The huge. I forgot my iPad. Anyway, I forgot my iPad because there's aliens floating around space in it right now. I hope to get it back soon. But
yeah, they put him in the Sputnik.
They put him in the Sputnik. Dress him up in his little Superman outfit.
Yeah, the little red cape. They give him the little red cape.
Yeah, it grows with him.
Yeah.
I assume it somehow just gets where he gets to keep the same one.
And they give him the entire audiobook collection of the readings of Marlon Brando.
The Marlon Brando history of the world.
Marlon Brando reads the Encyclopedia Britannica, 1977, or whatever. It'd be 1962.
These are what plants are like. Wait, why am I talking like Ringo?
I don't know. This is a dog. The little fairy things.
So they send him to Earth, and they say he'll need that advantage to survive.
Yeah, he will be a god amongst men.
Yeah,
he'll be a god amongst men.
I mean, your Brando's better than my Ringo. So they blast him up, and he gets a crystal.
Yeah, well, they put those crystals in there.
Yeah, the crystals are in there. I think that's what the recordings were on. I'm not entirely
pretty much,
sure.
Yeah.
And then they send him to Earth, and then Krypton dies because its sun explodes.
Yeah,
and then crazy giant crystals come up and kill everyone.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens.
crystals, yeah.
That's just what happens sometimes.
It was the 70s, like that whole crystal movement was just getting big.
Crystal movements.
Yeah, like healing crystals. Yeah. All that new age stuff. That's where it all came from.
Climate change and and healing crystals. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what it was. So yeah, he's on his way to Earth. He grows up. He's in there for a long time.
He is
doing just fine.
At least 2 or 3 years.
He's not eating anything. Superman doesn't need to eat and drink anything, does he?
No, he's like a plant. He absorbs it.
He absorbs
photosynthesis.
It from
yeah.
So he gets that, I guess, and
or a marbled rye.
He gets to learn about literature and Chinese scientific writings, which are good for a baby to learn.
Now here's one of my big things. How come they didn't do the whole credit sequence as he's flying from Krypton to Earth? Because it's like the exact same amount of time as the credits, and it's just like flying through space. It's like the opening of Star Trek. Like,
is that part of the Donner cut?
I don't see the Donner cut. That's Superman 2 has the Donner cut.
So he gets a little bit older. He grows up listening to Brando's voice, and then he lands in a cornfield. Yeah. Ma and Pa Kent's cornfield.
Glenn Ford and his prime right there.
They managed to take this surprisingly well.
Especially and then there's a naked Superman standing up like a full-on naked child just on the screen. I was kind of like, that's surprising.
They take it pretty well.
Yeah.
Ma Kent, she gets it. She gets what's going on. And then Super Baby lifts a car.
Yeah.
And so we learn pretty early on that
That's
he's Super Baby.
Another one of my favorite little moments right there is there's a scene in that moment when he lifts the car. There's a music cue right there, and they just play the Superman theme a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good right there. Yeah.
Just a little thing, he's doing a super thing.
Yeah.
Little Super Baby. So then we cut to Kent is, so they obviously name him Clark Kent.
Yes, Clark. Clark is actually Martha's.
Clark Griswold Kent.
Clark is Martha Kent's maiden name. So there you go. They mentioned that in the movie.
Okay. I must not have written that down.
Yeah.
He's the equipment manager of the local football team.
Smallville High.
Smallville High. Gotta be. He's adorable. He has no time for parties because he's got all that work to do. But
He's a farmhand. He's got to work on the Kent farm.
But he can kick a football like
can.
a million yards.
Yeah, but his dad won't let him play. Nope.
No, because he'd be too good.
Yeah.
And he'd kill everyone probably.
He would kill everyone.
He would tackle someone and
Yeah.
their spine would melt from the force. They would liquefy. He can awkwardly run along with trains,
Yes.
which is kind of fun because then you get that. They don't mention it, but kind of going in, there's that faster than a speeding
bullet, yeah.
locomotive.
No, it's more
it's stronger
faster-
than a locomotive,
It's
right?
faster than a speeding bullet, stronger than a locomotive. Yeah, stronger than a
Stronger.
locomotive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but we at
the-
least get
yeah.
to do something with that. I
with
misremembered
that
it,
cute
but-
scene where where there's that girl on the train's like, "Mommy, there's a boy running faster than the train," and they're like, "Lois, stop it!" And you're like, "Oh, it's Lois Lane as a kid."
Yay!
Yay!
Foreshadowing. So he wants to play football. He wants to show off his abilities, but Pa won't let him. He says he's meant for more than that, which I don't know if that's true, but because he can make a lot of money playing football.
Yeah. However, he's like, "All right, Dad, it's fine. Not a big deal."
So he says, you need to keep your abilities a secret for now, and he says, okay, that's fine. And then Pa Kent dies, and his last words were, "Oh no,"
Yeah.
which is not how I want to go.
Ooh.
It's so abrupt too. He's
Yes.
just like getting a bottle of milk or something. He's just walking, and then he just dies.
I want my last words to be more steak. Not even
Bring me another round.
Yeah, exactly.
So after the funeral, Clark discovers the big green crystal in the barn.
Yeah, he gets a psychic call.
Yeah, and he figures out it must be time to go home. He says it must be time to go home, and Ma Kent cries, and he heads north.
Yes.
He goes north,
And
and they
he
hug.
listens- he
they hug
listens-
it out
yeah.
on the set of Days of Heaven.
And he goes up north listening to Pearl Jam and growing a beard. Oh, wait, that's the wrong movie.
Oh no, that's a much worse version of this. So he goes to the North Pole, I guess.
Yep.
That's when he realizes that he's meant for more, and maybe it's to make toys for children. I'm not sure. He throws his crystal in the snow, and then a lot of crystals show up.
And crystals just grow.
All the crystals everywhere in a big island or whatever comes out, and that's the Fortress of Solitude.
Never
Yeah.
actually mentioned as the Fortress of Solitude in the movie.
but we know that.
Yes.
It's funny. There was that whole thing after. It was earlier this year, like the end of last year, where it was a thing that was online. It was Patton Oswalt being interviewed for some dumb show, and he was talking about it was the Justice League stuff. I don't think that the Batman versus Superman trailer had come out yet,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of the Justice League pictures had come out, and he was talking about. His big thing that he kept joking was that Superman isn't allowed to brood.
No.
Superman's not a brooding character. Batman can be a brooding character, but all these other characters are supposed to be, colorful and bright and fun and, fight for justice. And I agree, except that Superman does have a place called the Fortress of Solitude, which I think was... if that's not an emo band from the 90s, then I'm not entirely sure what is.
I mean, to be fair, all men have a fortress of solitude. For most of us, it's the bathroom.
It's the bathroom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, yep.
Sit on my throne of solitude.
I call it the Iron Throne.
Yeah, the porcelain throne.
And then Superman, that's a weird little section there because he goes into the fortress and then listens to Brando give a speech for the third time.
Right. Giant Brando shows up and he says, "What's up? Here's all the information you need for your backstory."
Yes. Exposition! I mean, seriously, Brando gives 3 massive speeches in this movie, and it's just like, God damn it, just stop.
And, oh my God, the early computer effects on that.
Yeah.
It just suddenly becomes like this really trippy Atari sequence.
Exactly, yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Very out of place.
And then after Brando gives his speech, all of a sudden he's dressed in the blue and red tights and flies off.
It's just like, he put them on.
That was quick.
While he was talking, he's just like, "I'm going to put these on."
Yeah.
No, keep talking. I'm just going to put these on.
Yeah, no,
It's
I'm
fine.
listening. I'm listening.
Uh-huh.
You're
Yeah,
gonna
I've
go
heard this
on,
3
you're
times.
gonna do stuff, and you're gonna go to Metropolis.
So,
Get a good job, like a reporter or something like that.
right. Prue the last forever. God, my Brando's terrible. I'm not even trying.
That's my old Brando. Young Brando sounds like this. You know, there could have been something, Charlie. I could have been but old Brando, he sounds like this a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how you do your Brando.
I like
you
it.
You got to pick your Brandos.
I like it. Pick your brain. You got to pick your Brandos.
Yeah, and he flies off, and then
That was Coppola's motto as well.
you got to pick your Brando. Coppola.
So he goes to work for the Daily Planet.
The Daily Planet. Because as we know, print will never go out of style.
No. Cuts to that. Lois Lane. We meet
And finally, this is-
full-grown Margot Kidder.
Full-grown.
Lois Lane, who can't spell.
No.
apparently.
However, really fun sequence. Probably where I actually started to really enjoy the movie is when they finally got to the Daily Planet. And all the stuff with Lois Lane not being able to spell and, you know.
And Jimmy Olsen has to help, and he's taking all the pictures, and then it's Clark's first day. We have no idea what makes him qualified to work in a newspaper.
No, they...
do they explain
Yeah,
it?
Perry White says, you know, he's a great reporter, and he's the fastest typist I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. Is that all it is?
Yeah, pretty much. This is a fast typist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Because he has super speed. Once again, Superman using his superpowers to get a little further. Like, exactly what his dad told him not to do.
Very true.
Oh, it's okay that he doesn't run the football, but he could just type a little fast, and it's a different story.
Yeah. So he's, but we have learned that he's super awkward, which is not surprising because he wasn't allowed to socialize and
Yeah, it's
play
very-
sports and hang out with girls. He just had to work on the farm and not talk to anybody.
You know, and now that you say that, I always kind of thought, like, when I'm watching that movie, it's like it was an act that he's putting on that, you know, I have to act awkward and clumsy because I am
then
Superman.
people won't think
that
I'm
Superman. Which
but-
I'm sure is a big part of it, but there's also that little, like, farm boy aspect of not being able to handle a woman like Lois Lane because she's a big city girl and he's a country bumpkin. Mm-hmm. So there is that aspect to it.
And he has no friends.
No.
He has no friends whatsoever. He goes home and he just sits and
Works
he
on a
just
farm.
looks at a wall. That's all he does. We don't know what he does. We don't even know what his home life is like
He likes the white.
because it's sad.
He likes the white wall. It reminds him of his youth. Oh, wait, that's a different
That's
show.
totally different. It's a different universe, different cinematic universe. And of course he's a really fast typer. He sends half of his paycheck to his sweet gray-haired old mother.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Actually, it's more silver-haired. I think that's the line.
Great. That's right. I actually wrote that, but I didn't understand it. So I'm glad you brought it up because it was a couple of weeks ago that I actually watched this and took all these notes. So I have zero context on some of it. Great little sequence that they have that I like that I want to mention where he says there's very few people left in the world who are comfortable saying that word. What word? Swell. That's his country bumpkin thing.
Yeah.
He would say swell.
He's got that country bumpkin. Just he can't. It's a great juxtaposition of not only country life versus city life, but the 1938 Superman, 1940 Superman versus the 1970s. You know, the original idea of Superman versus this modern notion of what society is.
Yeah.
Can they be compatible?
Right. And that's what you have to do, I think, in update, you know, whatever era you set Superman in. I think he's always going to be rooted in some sort of the context of when he was created.
Yeah, the 1930s Americana,
You know?
that Tom Joad-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So he's gonna say silly words like swell, and he's gonna get stymied by revolving doors.
Yeah.
But then a robber,
Yes.
an honest to goodness robber in Metropolis.
I thought for a second I was in the Muppet movie. Like, that sequence reminded me something out of, like, Muppets Take Manhattan.
Miss Biggie's chasing
Yeah.
him down on.
It really
Roller
does. Isn't it?
skates.
It's like something out of, like yes,
on Gregory Hines' roller skates.
I don't know, man. I've always said yes. I've always said 1970. I would never like to go to New York now, because New York now is nothing like the New York that I want to go. I want to go to the 1978 New York, where they have like street muggers
Right.
and pornography in Times Square,
Filthy porno, Times Square.
Serpico, all of that
Yes.
stuff.
Everyone's just sweaty
Yeah.
all the
There's
time.
garbage everywhere, strewn on the streets, like papers flying around. That does not exist anymore. But yeah, this sequence reminded me something out of the Muppets Take Manhattan. Like, you would never see this happen in real life.
So the robber shows up, and then Clark is just basically a huge tool. He
Yeah.
doesn't really do anything, and Lois kicks him in the face, and he gets shot. Clark gets shot, and he pretends, I'm injured, and then he pretends like he faints. You know,
I
but-
think more than that, it's the robber shoots Clark, and Clark pretends to faint with the gunshot.
right.
But in reality,
It just
no, he grabs the bullet.
he grabbed the bullet. I thought
Yes.
it sort of smashed
no,
against
he
him.
he grabbed
Okay.
the bullet and pretended like it missed him, but he fainted.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what happened.
wiener,
Yeah.
such a wiener.
But it's got that little glint of like, Psh, I know what's up.
Yeah.
I caught the bullet.
and I can never use this to get laid.
No, never.
But he
Never.
will.
Yeah,
he
eventually,
will kind of
yeah.
use it to get laid later. So then we get to meet Ned Beatty.
Yes.
Great character.
Oh,
Love me some Ned Beatty. So the cops are following Ned Beatty because they're going to lead him. He's going to lead them, rather, to Lex Luthor, criminal genius.
Yeah.
Who, of course, it turns out he's preparing to commit the crime of the century.
As Lex Luthor always does.
Yeah.
One thing about Lex Luthor in this movie is every time he shows up, he has to mention that he is a criminal genius.
Yeah. That's seems to be his claim to fame. He doesn't really seem to have another job. So his job and title is criminal genius. And he has this great crime lined up. He only had to kill one detective to do it.
Yeah, with a train. I think he killed Kolchak the Night Stalker. I think that's who he killed. Yeah.
And of course, the crime involves land.
It's the only thing they're not making more of.
Always with the land.
Well, let's be fair. You meet Lex Luthor, who's the head of this little criminal thing, with his mole, Miss Tussmacher,
Yes.
and Ned Beatty, his henchman, is Otis. So,
Otis. Right.
Otisburg.
Love him.
Yes, his whole plan is to buy up all of this worthless desert and land in California. You don't really know why yet.
Yeah. We don't know why, but we will soon.
Yes.
We will soon.
Lex Luthor, criminal genius. with that's prime Hackman, where he's this is, I think, pre-Hoosiers,
I think so. Yeah.
but post French Connection. Gene
Yes.
Hackman, yes.
Yeah, he is very much in his prime.
Yes.
Great guy, great actor. I say that about him like we're just talking about this guy we know. Like, oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Great guy.
Great guy. Back to Daily Planeteers. Lois Lane is up in a helicopter,
She's going off to meet the president, who's flying in on Air Force One.
like you do,
Like you do.
like the Daily Planet does. But there's a problem. Helicopter goes haywire. Not entirely sure why, but it looks like this might be the end for Lois Lane and company. They land on the building, and they're kind of teetering.
Yeah.
And bad things are going to happen. And then out comes Clark, which is kind of one of those funny nods where he glances at a phone book. That's the kind of jokes they still make in these comic book movies. We talk about this every episode of like the little reference to the original thing.
Where he would run into a phone
but
booth. And,
we're not going to do that. Like
because phone booths have changed. Now you can't even find a damn phone booth anywhere.
Right.
So what would he
even
do?
in 1978, he saw one. It's
Dude.
just like, but they're all see-through
Yeah.
because so many people were taking off their clothes in them. So they couldn't do that anymore.
Nowadays, he just pull out his cell phone and go, and put his cell phone back in his pocket.
No calls. Didn't get any calls today.
But instead, he uses something symbolic of the 1970s, the revolving door.
The revolving door, yeah, which he was earlier confused by, but now he seems like he gets it. And so he spins around and around and around somehow. And
believe
out he comes
super
as
speed.
Superman,
Yeah.
using his super speed. And he flies up and, he saves the day, obviously.
And then we get a series of vignettes of him doing multiple things across the city.
Yeah, he there's a jewel thief. He stops a police chase and a shootout.
Well, because of just like the 1970s, of course there's a guy trying to climb a building.
Yeah.
That only existed in the 1970s. It's like how quicksand only existed in the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah.
And you never see quicksand anymore. You never see a guy trying to scale a building with suction cups anymore.
No, not even the cat burglars.
No.
And Superman catches him, does that. Of course, he saves a cat.
He does save a cat from a tree.
Got it. You
Yeah.
got to have that. That's
He's
wonderful.
Saves Air Force One.
And then Air Force One gets struck by lightning, and so, he saves that too, which is
Yeah.
good of him.
Good on you, Superman, saving that plane. Yeah, I did like my favorite is that when he saves the cat in the tree, and the little girl comes in and it tells her mom like Superman cape, and the mom you just hear, "Don't lie to me." I was like, holy jeez. Superman saved the cat, but didn't save the kid from abuse.
No, he doesn't have enough time to stop parents from hitting their children in the 70s.
It was the 70s. It was expected. Superman would have smacked the girl for the mom if she asked.
Don't lie to your mother.
Don't lie to your mother.
But you did. You're right here.
Don't talk back.
No, I'm not. Flat. So Lex finds out about Superman because now he's all over the news.
Yeah, and he's
right? Everybody
afraid that
knows
it's going to
about
screw
him.
up his plan.
Yeah, so he says he can't be from this planet. There's
No.
no way. So he's got to try to figure it out. And he says, he says if anybody was going to perpetrate, it's got to be it can't be a hoax because if anybody was going to pull off a hoax like that, it would be him.
Exactly.
So it has to be real. So he has to be a real,
This is
alien.
the
And Ned
deductive,
Beatty's,
the deductive logic
Yeah.
of Lex Luthor.
he's not
Or
wrong.
is it inductive logic? It's one of the two at this point.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not.
And Ned Beatty's costumes are all dope as hell.
They are.
I
I mean,
really appreciate all his pimp outfits and
he
stuff.
does. I also appreciate the fact of Lex Luthor wearing and having a different hairstyle in every scene. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I didn't. But that's great.
I'll go a little bit into it in production, but they're all supposed to show that he's wearing different wigs.
Okay, I may have noticed it because I definitely, you know about the wig thing because you know he's supposed to be bald. Like
Yeah.
the character is supposed to be bald.
Yes.
So of course we get, the obligatory thing where Perry White wants to run. He's like, I got to get the inside scoop on the Superman, and so Superman agrees to grant an interview with Lois. Only with Lois.
By the way, something I didn't really realize till I watched this movie. God knows how long ago it's been since I watched this movie. But how Perry White is so much proto J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. Like, because J. Jonah Jameson's like, give me Spider-Man. I want pictures of Spider-Man. I want poems about Spider-Man. Give me everything about Spider-Man. Like, Perry White is doing that, but about Superman. But he's not quite as mean about it. And it's like, you got to really appreciate that Perry White performance in this movie. That it's just like, wow, he really nailed that character.
Yeah.
That 1970s news media guy. You know? It's like, give me the tapes. Where are the tapes?
Right. Holly Hunter's running through with
with the
change
tapes.
out the video.
Our obligatory broadcast news reference of the podcast.
We find out that in the interview, so we find out not a lot, but we do. He plays it very coy because it's really all just an excuse to flirt. But we find out that he has trouble seeing through lead.
Yes.
So, which I guess is good because then that means that should ease everyone's mind that they could see inside their homes because by then everyone's
Yeah,
house
the lead
still
paint.
had lead paint.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
No, we can't use his X-ray vision to watch you changing your clothes.
Yes.
As long as you use safe and reliable and durable lead paint.
Lead, lead, lead.
So Superman takes Lois flying somehow.
Oh, with one of my favorite sequences of all times. Can you hear what I'm thinking? Can you read my mind?
Yeah.
That poem, and it's just like, what is the point of this? But it's so iconic of that movie.
It's very weird. The
It's-
whole thing. I quoted my wife here, who said, and I quote, "The whole thing is pretty fucked up." The whole sequence.
It's I could quote my wife because she had fallen asleep at this point in
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, that's a terrible. What a Superman.
Yes, what a Superman. That the S gave it away, but whatever.
Oh my god. So
Yeah, and that's where you left
that's
off.
as far as I got.
All right.
That Lex Luthor decides to do something. I wrote Lex Luthor decides and then stopped writing.
Yes,
That's as far as I got. So
yes. Well, Lex Luthor has discovered at this point that Superman is probably came to Earth relatively at the time when this meteorite also hit Earth, which would contain fragments from his home planet, which would be radioactive to him. I don't know where he comes to this conclusion, but he does.
and I don't know how that of all the meteorites that probably hit the Earth and how
yeah.
that one wasn't news.
Yeah.
He figures it out somehow.
It hit in the Mideast somewhere, and so he goes and steals it just because he can, apparently. I don't know how he got...
He's a criminal genius.
He is. His passports were all in order, I guess. And also, at this time, the U.S. military is going to be doing a secret nuclear test of 2 missiles. So luckily, him, Otis, and Miss Tessmacher are able to hijack Larry Hagman's military convoy. Yes, that was Larry Hagman.
The three of them.
Yeah, just the 3 of them, and reprogram the missiles to fly off. So at this point, Superman's doing his thing, flying around the city, and he all of a sudden hears a dog whistle, and he goes and he follows it down to Lex Luthor's base, and there he's scanning. Lex Luthor explains the grand scheme, saying that there's 2 missiles that are going to fly off. They're going to blow off the San Andreas Fault, causing
Right.
California to fall into the ocean, and all the land that I bought up along this
Right.
is going to be worth millions.
That's that thing that everyone was obsessed was going to happen during the 70s and 80s.
And
was
now-
that California was going to fall into the ocean.
In 2015, we have a movie called San Andreas that's coming out, so...
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't go away.
No.
At this point in California, probably they would probably be happy with it falling into the ocean because
Finally.
it'd be like, oh god, the drought's over. We're in the ocean. Sorry, California.
So Superman... So he's like, we're sending 2 missiles, one to California to blow off the San Andreas Fault, and the other one to Hoboken, New Jersey, right? Is it Hoboken, or is it...
Yeah, or like yeah,
It's
something like that.
Yeah, it's... I always say Hoboken, but
East
I know...
Orange.
It's East Orange, West Egg. What? It's not Hoboken. It's something similar
Elizabeth.
to... Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So he sends off the 2 missiles. Superman's like, well, where are the codes? How are we going to change this? And so he says, they're in that lead box over there. He opens up. Oh, no, it's kryptonite.
Because he couldn't see through the box.
He couldn't see through the box. It's a lead box.
Right.
So they put the chain that has a kryptonite on him, and Superman tosses him into a pool. And his palatial subway, palace that he has underneath
Yeah.
there. What does it say? Prime Parkview Avenue. And she's like, it's 100 feet below Park Avenue. And Lex Luthor goes off to enjoy the spoils of his victory. But Miss Tessmacher's there. She's like, my mother lives in Hoboken, New Jersey. And she says, Superman, you promised to save Hoboken first? And he's like, yes, I promised to. I never lie. She's like, okay. And she takes the chain off, and he goes off and flies off. He stops the one that's going for Hoboken first. I know it's not Hoboken. It's driving me crazy that I can't think of it. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But he saves that missile. Then he goes and speeds off to go to the other missile. And unfortunately, he's too late. The missile strikes.
Yeah.
However, we get lots of scenes of him flying around and saving the Golden Gate Bridge and all these places. He's flying all up and down the coast, helping out.
Yeah.
But little does he know that Lois Lane is driving along the coast, doing story on why Lex Luthor is buying up all this property, and she falls into the San Andreas Fault. I think that's what happens.
Not clear exactly. She sees it kind of chasing her.
Oh no, John, drive away from the San Andreas Fault.
you can't. You gotta know you can't outrun an earthquake.
It's like light Sunday drive on the San Andreas Fault. So Superman is unable to save her in time. He gets there and he's like, no! And in the most iconic, bizarre things that ever happened, Superman flies off into the stratosphere and goes around the Earth. Now, there's numerous debates on what he's actually doing. Some say that he's going so fast that he's traveling back in time himself, and that the Earth rotates differently because it's just symbolizing him going back in time. Or some say that he's actually reversing Earth going backwards, and that's causing him to go back in time. No one really knows. All that he knows is that he does go back in time and saves Lois. But if he saves Lois, what happened to the rest of the coast and the missile in Hoboken? Like, it's never really explained.
Yeah, the missile in Hoboken should have still happened. I'm guessing... I don't know.
No, it's
not to mention there should be a second Superman now.
Yeah, there's two. Because I guess the second Superman wouldn't have any excuse to go back in time to save Lois, so now there's two Supermen on Earth.
Yeah, that starts to get into it. We could have a whole time travel podcast, and we won't do that to you. But rest assured, it's on our minds.
Yeah. It's the Back to the Future paradox in a lot of ways.
I like the time travel idea better than the rotating the Earth literally.
Yeah.
Because that of course makes no sense whatsoever.
Kevin, neither of this makes any sense.
I know. No, I know, but
one makes less sense than the other.
Well, if we're gonna say time travel is possible and Superman can travel back in time by going around really, really fast, then fine. I mean, it's he can do all these other crazy things. He might as well also be able to do that.
It's nothing they didn't do in Star Trek IV in 1984.
But the actual rotating the Earth backwards and unrotating it. I mean.
Hackensack, New Jersey.
There you go. Hackensack, hack. The devastating effect. It would be way worse than one earthquake in California if the Earth rotated backwards. Although that moment in which the Earth stopped rotating before it started rotating backwards, we would all experience weightlessness.
Yes,
briefly.
And then fly off into,
and then we would fly off into space, and we would all die. Yes. Anyway,
so Superman saves Lois, then he flies and gets Luthor and Otis and takes them to jail.
Yeah,
where Luthor famously takes off his wig and goes, "Do you know who I am?" You know, that sort of scene. And then Superman flies off into outer space and then freeze frame.
Yeah, freeze frame on Superman.
It'd be funny if they actually played freeze frame like ba 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 da 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 da.
The Jake Isles band hits freeze frame from the movie Superman.
Then there you go. That's the 1978 Superman.
What a weird movie.
So bizarre. Okay, production notes times. Famously done by the Salkins. 1973 went into pre-production. It was a big deal. Negotiating with DC. This is back in the day, you know, like you didn't make comic book movies.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, Superman's an icon. He'd already had TV shows. He had lots of that stuff going on.
Yeah.
DC actually...
Superheroes were a part of the lexicon, you know, not a lot of the deep characters, but, you know, a lot of the stuff in cartoons and in TV and in radio, and, like, people knew who these characters were.
Yeah, I mean, you have to... I think part of the reason why Superman was able to be made was because Superman was so iconic. Not only did you have the cartoons, but the radio show. Like, people who would be going to see this movie... You know, I always hear things about my parents telling me of, like, having to dress up to go to the movies in the 70s. You know, it was a thing. You didn't just like,
Yeah.
you know, like we go now, and I'm lucky I'm wearing pants to go to the movies.
This is an afternoon by putting my feet up on the chair in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. Smoking a giant cigar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I still do that.
It's like something out of Cape Fear. That's what I do when I go to the movies. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I think that they were able to do it because there was people who would be going to it who remembered the radio show, who remembered the the George
Yeah.
Reeves TV show, and kids who watched Superman on the Super Friends, and even older people who remember the old Max Fleischer cartoons.
Yeah.
So I think they were able to get away with it that way. Now they wanted to cast someone famous as Superman. They, names pop up, including James Caan, Al Pacino, Muhammad Ali, Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, which would have been hysterical as Superman, mind you. I don't even. Tootsie definitely was. No, Tootsie was 80s,
No,
right?
it was like 82.
So this would have been like definitely postgraduate.
Yeah, but Graduate was late
60s,
so
yeah.
I don't know. Little Big Man. Well, I think that was 70. I think that was really early on too.
Yeah.
I don't remember offhand what he was up to at that point. I'm
Yeah.
sure some big stuff I'm just forgetting.
Yeah, but it's definitely a little, I think that would have been amazing. I think the one that probably came closest was James Caan, which also would have been pretty funny to have James Caan as Superman, like the
could have seen that.
the curly wig James Caan, the
Yes.
curly haired James Caan playing Superman, flying around. Post Godfather James Caan,
Yeah.
yeah. But he actually says I looked ridiculous in that suit. That's what he says when he did the screen test for it.
Oh.
They were desperate to find someone to play Superman. They couldn't do it. They could not find someone to do it. Like they tested someone's dentist. That's a very famous story. There's so many good documentaries about this movie that you could watch that give you so much information on the production, like what they went into. And then finally they settled on Christopher Reeves, who had not done much at the time. I think he'd done a couple TV miniseries.
He's done some TV stuff.
Yeah. He put on, I think, 25 pounds of muscle. And he doesn't even look like it. I guess I'm just so jaded by the 80s action hero muscle of
Yeah.
Stallone and Schwarzenegger that you can't really, you're looking at Christopher Reeves, it's like you don't even tell it. Like, they don't even try to make the bodysuit, skin tight,
Right.
I could put on that suit and kind of look muscular with it, I guess, which is very, not at all. But, yes. So then, of course, you have the writer. And who do we get to write Superman 1978?
I don't know.
Mario Puzo,
Oh.
writer of The Godfather.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even
You didn't
notice
know that? Oh,
I didn't
wow.
even know that.
Yes. He had to include a scene where they were made spaghetti in order to show how authentically Italian Superman was.
You cut the garlic,
You get
slice the garlic
That's
real thin. and
Goodfellas.
basically-
That's good,
Oh,
fellas.
Jesus. Oh, God. I was trying to make a joke and I completely forgot I was just reading something about the Goodfellas.
Yes, and so actually the filmmakers decided that they wanted to make Superman and Superman 2 back to back, which is
Okay.
I believe actually the second movie that ever did that. I'm not 100% sure on that. The only other movie I know off the top of my head that had done it beforehand was the Three Musketeers and the Four Musketeers, which had done that. I believe it was the early 70s. That the very classic Three Musketeers that I absolutely love. With the guy from Logan's Run. Hold on. So for directors, they courted numerous people. Steven Spielberg, of course, was top on their list. He had just done Jaws at that point.
Yeah.
And also George Lucas. These I tend to feel like in my research, this is a lot of hindsight for the making of the movie, because I feel like they wouldn't have gotten Spielberg, they wouldn't have gotten Lucas, they wouldn't have actively pursued them because they hadn't even really made their famous stuff yet. I mean, Jaws would have just come out right before then. Star Wars hadn't during pre-production hadn't even come out yet. He'd only done THX and American Graffiti.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would have went with even actively pursued Lucas. They might have
Sure.
asked him going around, but eventually they did settle on Richard Donner, who I don't know if he had done anything crazy beforehand either.
The Omen was kind of
Yeah.
his big. That was his feature debut.
They should have got Gregory Peck to play Superman.
Lois. I can't see through lead.
At least you could do a Gregory Peck. I'll give you that. I can't do a Gregory Peck. Yeah, I would say that The Omen was a pretty big one. And then famously, for a salary of $3.7 million, including 11.75 of the box office, what he ended up getting, which totaled $19 million, Marlon Brando signed on as Jor-El. The biggest coup, I think, like, people still talk about how they got Marlon Brando to play Jor-El.
Yeah.
Marlon Brando, of course, this is peak Brando at this time, where he refused to learn lines.
Well, right. This would have been right before he would have just then probably transitioned right into Apocalypse Now, which was also famously a hellish experience
for Brando,
for Brando, and for everyone who had to work with Brando.
Also, they tried to get Coppola to do the movie too. So yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have done that well. I think Donner was probably the right pick.
Yeah, it would have been a different movie. I could see if you wanted to do like a period thing. If you wanted to set it like in the 40s and do like a really early historical period Superman, that could have worked maybe. But maybe I'm just thinking because that's Coppola at the time.
But I think Coppola could have shot New York pretty well. But I think Coppola would have taken a different approach to it. I think Coppola can't do the light, cheesy comic booky stuff.
No, I mean, it would have been real heavy-handed.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about that, yeah. So yeah, they paid him a huge amount, and there's a very famous Brando quote where he's like, "These people are alien. Why don't you just get a bagel and film that on screen? And I'll just film the voice work."
A bagel. The bagel people of Krypton.
Exactly. That was literally that's not a direct quote, but that is a paraphrase of his quote. And he did say bagel. I think he said green bagel.
Yeah.
Get a green bagel. You gonna eat that?
You gotta eat that.
So yeah, they filmed that, and they also Gene Hackman was also another coup for Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman famously did not want to shave his head. He refused to shave his head. He also had a mustache like everyone did in the 1970s and refused to shave it.
Yeah.
Because my father has had a mustache since the 1970s and has refused to shave it up until 2015. So Gene Hackman holding onto that mustache was a big deal. But there's a very famous anecdote of Donner meeting with Hackman saying, "You got to shave the mustache." And he's like, "No." So Donner says, "I'll shave my mustache off if you shave yours." And he goes, "Okay." So Gene Hackman shaves off his mustache, and he's like, "All right, Donner, you got to do it." And Donner just pulls off the mustache. It was a fake one the entire time.
What?
Yeah. But however, Hackman didn't want to be filmed bald. I don't know if it's necessarily for whatever reason, but he agreed to do one scene, and that was at the very, very end where he pulls off the wig and shows that he's bald. I don't think it was absolutely necessary for Lex Luthor to be bald in the movie. I think it was fine.
No, but that's that thing where like it's gotta look like the character, and it doesn't.
No, it doesn't at all.
We deal with that now, where it's like, it was a couple years ago. It was like Spider-Man can't be black.
Yeah, Spider-Man can't be
because
black.
Spider-Man was never drawn black. Like, who gives a shit? It's a fictional character.
Yeah.
Just do it. It's
Just
fine.
do it. Yeah, there's no problem with that. And then of course, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane was the other big cast. That was also there's a very, very famous, and I've talked about this before, a very famous video that you can find of all the women auditioning for the role of Lois Lane, and there was a very, of course Lois Lane's on there. It's like every ingenue of that time period had auditioned for it. Oh, by the way, another weird casting thing I thought was that I thought for years that Miss Tussmacher was played by Eileen Brennan.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but
so while you're looking that up, I want to go back just because we were wondering about Dustin Hoffman, and what he was doing at the time, and I only want to go back because his 1976 he had two features. All the President's Men and Marathon Man.
Ooh.
So he would have been right off of those two movies.
Robert Redford also auditioned.
I could see that, yeah.
They wanted Robert Redford. I think they couldn't afford Robert Redford. I think that was what was going on at the time.
Especially as they gave all their money to Brando.
I want all the monies and the bagel. But and the audition video for Lois Lane, the best one hands down was Leslie Ann Warren. because she was just so likable as Lois Lane in that audition footage. If you can find it, the reason I think she even auditioned was because she was in the Superman musical "It's a Bird, It's a Plane" that was running on Broadway. She played Lois Lane in that musical.
Okay.
So that's why she auditioned. But she nailed that part. As much as I like Margot Kidder was also 2 years older than Christopher Reeves at the time, and it's just an amazing casting thing. Like, do you think about it nowadays? They would have never have pulled a casting like that in modern era of Hollywood. Like, Margot Kidder would never have been cast as Lois Lane in that in modern day Hollywood. Someone who's older than the main character. It just wouldn't work, and they just wouldn't do it
as a romantic lead. But it's not really a romance, I think, because in the traditional sense.
Oh yeah,
because it's for one thing, it's a given. Everybody knows about this romance. Everybody knows Superman is the thing with Lois Lane, and Clark obviously likes her too because it's the same person, but she doesn't like Clark because he's ridiculous.
Nebbish.
He's a ridiculous nebbishy oaf.
Yes.
So maybe that's how they get away with it, but otherwise, I don't know. I would love to have seen Leslie Ann Warren, by the way.
Lane. Yeah, I mean I don't
maybe a little too like potentially sultry. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on that part. I also have part of my, let me see. I'm trying to find the guy's name who played young Clark Kent in high school, because there's for life of me I don't have it in my notes right off the bat. But his voice was dubbed by Christopher Reeve.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, they didn't. It's so funny. Like, why would they do that? Why couldn't they just get Christopher Reeve and make him look younger? Just dress him up younger. Instead, they have to get someone to cast him. And like, he's probably obviously like only like if he's in high school at the time, it's like he's like 16, 17 at that time. And then he goes to Metropolis at like what, 21? It's only like a 5-year difference. It's not a big deal.
Right.
You know,
should have been doable.
It should have been doable. I don't know why they did it, but they did it that way. I also wanted, just beforehand, the movie only won 3 and was only nominated for 3 Academy Awards.
The fact that it was nominated for any is amazing.
Well, just wait. It's best film editing, best score, which
sure.
I believe it should have won, but it did not. And what was actually nominated against was Midnight Express with Giorgio Moroder.
Okay.
Boys from Brazil, Jerry Goldsmith. Days of Heaven, Ennio Morricone. Heaven Can Wait, Dave Grusin, and Superman. And actually, what won was Midnight Express.
Yeah.
Now, I went and I listened to the Midnight Express score. It's a very good score.
Very good. The Chase, awesome.
However, Superman is better.
John Williams, Superman.
I guarantee, it's not like John Williams was robbed of his Oscar. The man has the most Oscars out of anybody. I think he has the record for most Oscars. But I mean, I bet you if I interviewed him, he'd be like, "Yeah, I should have won that one.
I should have won that one too."
I mean, that's one of his top 3 most recognizable scores of all time. So it's pretty he was robbed. Also, do you know what won Best Picture that year?
I don't.
It was 79, but the 78 Oscars.
I don't.
The Deer Hunter.
Oh, yeah, I should have known that.
Yeah.
Nino, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I find it so funny. Like, I actually think that this movie probably could have won, or at least been nominated for a couple more Oscars.
Had they been doing what they do now, the 9 to 11 or so, it probably would have.
I mean,
just for the technical,
production
and the special effects.
But the thing on top of it too is you got to remember this is 78, and from 1976 to 1980 was some of the best years that Hollywood, some of the best movies Hollywood has ever produced.
Yeah. We were on the tail end. It was winding down.
Yeah.
The sort of huge boon of American filmmaking from the late 60s into 1980. Pretty much ended in 1980. Arguably, it was killed by Cimino director of The Deer Hunter, not with The Deer Hunter, but with Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
That was the 3+ hour, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars tanking at the box office, and that's when Hollywood said, "You guys have had enough free reign."
Yeah. And then and what movie won the Oscar that year? Chariots of Fire. Hey, let's watch a movie about people who run.
As someone who runs, I don't want to watch a movie about people who run.
Yeah, I mean, also that was the year that Gary Busey was nominated for the Buddy Holly story. Just
Nice.
to throw it out there. Also, Woody Allen got his acting nod and as a directing nod for Interiors,
Yeah.
my least favorite Woody Allen movie, and that includes all the ones he did for DreamWorks.
Ouch.
So, what'd you think? Like,
I like it.
yeah,
I like it. I think it's a fun movie. There's a lot of things. The things that I don't like about it tend to be the things that are the most dated.
yeah, I agree with that.
Some of the effects, but you know what? It's
No,
fine.
I think the effects worked in this movie. I think
they worked at the time. I
Yeah.
think they're dated, but it's fine and it's charming in its own way. It's like it's the 1978 Superman.
Yeah,
That's
I think
it.
I think the effects work for me just because I can suspend my disbelief because I've seen so much bad CG.
Sure.
That's kind of refreshing to go, oh, at least it's practical. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I know it's fake, and it looks fake, but at least it's not like a cartoon
Yeah.
flying around. Like,
I mean, the only thing that I don't like really is the ending. We got into it a little bit just talking about the practicality of
Yeah.
it, but the the saving Lois by traveling through time or whatever
Yeah.
is such a bizarre choice. There's so many. I mean, I guess the idea, and maybe they talk about this in some of the documentaries that you've mentioned, but you know, I guess the idea must have been like, what's he can do all of these big things, and we've seen him do. I feel like we don't get to see him doing enough Superman stuff
Yeah.
in the movie, but we get to see him doing some things, chasing some bad guys and rescuing a cat and stuff. But so they're like, well, what's going to be the big? How are we going to, up the stakes for him?
Yeah.
Make it personal, and then have him do something that we've never seen Superman do before. And
Yeah.
they went with that. That was their choice. And it's just so mind-bogglingly weird. Like, I could never imagine that happening now.
yeah, I kind of agree with it. There's a couple things, at least in the comic book world, that you could bring into this argument. That in the 1970s, Superman was he was overpowered. So much so that in the 1980s, they actually toned back his powers because they're like he could do anything.
Yeah,
it's often
going to be boring to read
Yeah.
after a while because you're like, well, why would anyone even bother?
Yeah.
Because he can't be hurt or killed or slowed down or anything.
They often call this time period the pre-crisis Superman because in the 1980s, 1984 or 1985, there was a miniseries called Crisis on Infinite Earths where they kind of wiped out all of the DC Universe history and started from scratch. And so a lot of the characters who had these crazy backgrounds and just bizarre, racist backgrounds
Right.
were wiped out. So in order they could,
Man.
yeah. Green Lantern had a sidekick named Pie Face. He was an Eskimo. I don't really quite know why he was called Pie Face, but that just sounds racist.
It was probably very, very racist.
Oh, it was. But then, but yeah, Superman got toned down back then. But beforehand, he could do anything. There was actually a very famous thing of Superman. One of his powers is to shoot a mini Superman out of his hand. No, I'm not joking. That was one of his powers.
In what context would that ever be useful?
They did it in a comic.
Get him, little soups.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whee!
Yes. So on that, I just don't quite.
I can't even picture it.
I could find a picture.
How
of it.
did they not go with that in this film?
Yeah, but
Little Soups, you go save New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'll go save California. Okay, boss.
I think that actually probably would have been a better thing. Is like Superman, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, he splits into two Supermen and flies off.
There you go.
That would have been a little more
I
believable.
actually would have liked that maybe a little bit more than the rotating the Earth thing.
backwards. But yeah, it's something grand. It's something so insane that
Yeah.
that only they could pull it off in the movie.
I think they felt obligated to in the context of the movie because everybody knows to some degree like what he can do, and him going and just saving the day isn't really gonna wow people. So it needed to be something that's gonna blow people's minds. And it's like, what can Superman do that
Yeah.
could accomplish that? And apparently it's this, but it just confuses me.
I think Mario Puzo, they were told Mario Puzo, like, you have to do something, like, you have to, like, really up the ante at the end. He's like, he travels back in time.
That was originally a scene in the book of The Godfather, which is not very good, where in order to save Vito,
Okay.
Michael actually runs really fast and he travels back through time and he saves him from getting shot.
Yeah, he puts the orange in his mouth. Oh god! But no,
Great.
some of the things I really liked. I really liked the characterization of Lois Lane. It was very two-dimensional, but it's memorable enough that she's not.
She was catty, I suppose. Not catty. That's not a good word.
No, but she's a ball buster. She's a go-getter.
Ball buster.
Yeah.
There you go.
She's
Yeah.
like, when you think about,
very rough around the edges, but it works in that context.
we literally just went through what was it, six Marvel movies with all of these like sidekick women, and they're all kind of the same in a lot of ways. But at least Lois Lane, it's like she got like all this stuff, like she can't spell, and she doesn't give a crap about these guys, and she's a woman working in the man's world.
Yeah.
Nobody pees her and rapist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that's like a clever joke. Like it's kind of a dark joke too, because they're making a rape joke. I mean, it's not necessarily a rape joke, but it's like a play on the rape joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a rapist.
Yeah, and I love the Glenn Ford, Pa Kent. I think about if we look at it in comparison to the current Man of Steel that just came out, it's like this is how Pa Kent should be. He should be this loving guy who kind of, like he dies of a heart attack because Superman can't save a guy from a heart attack.
Right.
Superman can save a guy from a tornado.
Right.
But he can't save a guy from a heart attack. Like, what's he going to do? He can't do anything to save that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much more memorable.
Yeah.
That's
true. That's a good, that's very true.
That Man of Steel, that depiction of Pa Kent just drove me crazy.
I know.
As much as I like Kevin Costner, it was just like, he's like, no, you can't save me. Yes, he can. It's just a tornado. It's not like it's, he can easily save you.
He just spins around the tornado in the opposite direction really fast until it stops being a tornado or travels back in time.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
Suddenly the tornado was in the 40s.
But but I think the saddest thing is that how dated the 78 Superman is. It's just like, first of all, the news media doesn't exist anymore like that.
Yeah, it's of its time, but I definitely thought it holds up. I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I think it's a good. I think everyone who's making these movies now needs to probably sit back and watch this movie again, especially these DC movies. They need to sit and watch this and find out what did people like going into this movie. Coming out of this movie from a Superman movie, like what works and what doesn't, and compare that to what they did, and it's like,
and I think
it's night and day.
I think my complaint that it kind of looks like a Muppet movie stands up. I think that's a decent complaint.
Muppets Take Metropolis.
Yeah, the Muppets Take Metropolis. It definitely does. Like all those vignette scenes where he's like saving the cat and stopping the jewel thief. It all looks like something out of the Muppet movie. Yeah, like just even the feel of it feels like a Muppet movie.
Well, it's the same year. Well, that was 1979. I mean, we're right in the ballpark. I mean, it's
Muppets
a very
Take Manhattan
good...
was the 80s.
Yeah, that was later.
That's what
no, I'm sorry. Muppet movie was 77.
Yeah, Muppets Take Manhattan, I think, was 84.
Yeah, Take Manhattan was 85. Well, you said the Muppet movie.
Yeah,
and
I
so
did.
that's
You know
what
what
I was thinking.
Yeah. Whenever I thought, but
That
it's,
Muppet movie.
yeah. Did you find it weird that the
It was 79. I think I was right because I think Caper was 82. Sorry.
the substitution of New York City for Metropolis, like I just found it weird. Like they keep on referring to it as Metropolis, but like it's all New York. Like there's the Statue of Liberty, and you see you see the Twin
yeah.
Towers and the Empire State Building. And
Yeah, I mean,
think there's a Mets game that he goes to.
Superman goes to the Mets.
Yeah, I mean they all have like it all says Metropolis.
He
on
meets
it.
Wade Boggs at one point.
Superman
Ed
versus.
Koch is there.
How am I doing?
Hey, it's Superman.
It's not as bad as The Dark Knight, where Gotham City, like, there's scenes in Gotham City where it says, like, Chicago's best nuts in the background. And you're like,
Right.
they could have caught that. This is $1 million movie. You know?
Yeah.
I think they did.
No, it's not quite like that. Yeah, it literally was. They were just going to be like, "It's Metropolis," and then it's like nudge, nudge.
yeah.
It's clearly
New York
this.
City. In the comic book world, I believe Metropolis is in Delaware.
Ugh.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's Delaware. And
Ah,
Gotham
yes.
City's in New Jersey.
Bustling metropolis of Dover.
Exactly. Spring Door Factory. Screen Door Factory. Yeah. What? Any other thoughts on the movie?
No. I mean, I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. I mean, I'd seen it a few times. This was maybe the fourth time maybe in my
Yeah.
life that I've seen this movie, but it'd been a while.
This is
and I
like-
have the box set of all four on DVD, and I haven't watched any of the rest of them since I bought. I remember watching. I bought it, or I got it as a gift or something, and I watched the first one shortly after I got it a few years ago, and that was fun. And I had intended to get to the others, and I know that they're bad, but it's like, well, I have them. I might as well check them out. And I just haven't.
See,
So,
you're
we'll
the
see.
you're the completionist. I know that the movies are bad. I'm not going to watch. Superman.
Well, it's been a while, and I don't know that I've ever actually seen 3 or 4. I mean, I've heard that they're bad, and I'm pretty sure I've seen the second one. So it's more of just remembering and just seeing how bad. That's just for me. But and because I already have them, so it's not like I got to go out of my way to see them. But I think the first one's great. I think it holds up. I like Donner. I mean, he can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
But he's directed a ton of movies that I really, really like. I mean, I enjoy the hell out of The Omen.
Oh, The Omen's one of my
The
favorites.
Goonies and Scrooged is wonderful.
Yeah.
He's got a decent track record.
Yeah.
In the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I think the movie holds up. I think it's great. I think it's a product of its time. It's like watching like any 70s cop movie. You know, it's like you have to just understand that it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
You can't look at it like this is. It's not. For me, I just don't feel like it's a classic, though. You know, like I feel like to a lot of people, the 1978 Superman movie is a classic. I just don't feel like it's a classic to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, classic in the sense, I would not say that it's like one of the best movies of like the 70s. Like it's a classic of cinema in that sense.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about some of the movies we've mentioned already.
I mean, there's a lot of people who put it on like a best of the 70s list.
Yeah, but I don't.
I wouldn't agree
I
with
think those
that.
people haven't seen a lot of really great 70s movies. I think it's very good. I think it's a lot of fun, and it holds up, and it's about as good as I would have expected it to be.
Yeah.
It didn't disappoint me.
No,
but
it
it
did-
lived up to whatever expectations I think I had in my memory.
I think they should have trimmed out about a half hour of that movie, though, in my honest opinion.
Well,
Can you read my mind? Do you know what it is that you do to me? I don't know who you are. Just a friend from another star. Here I am, like a kid out of school, holding hands with a god. I'm a fool. Well, you look at me, quivering, like a little girl, shivering. You can see right through me. Can you read my mind? Can you picture the things I'm thinking of? Wondering why you are all the wonderful things you are. You can fly. You belong in the sky. You and I could belong to each other. If you need a friend, I'm the one to fly to. If you need to be loved, here I am. Read my mind.
All right, but I think that this section where we normally would place the movie in a different time period, I don't think we could do it because
It's kind of hard.
because Superman there's
It's already been done.
there's
a
an
million
iteration of
times.
Superman that's existed in every decade essentially.
So I had started thinking about my plan for this was. Do you have one or?
Well, no, I don't have like any specific year.
Yeah.
I kind of had a different thing that we could do today
Okay.
instead.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of was thinking of just what do you think is the best iteration of Superman out of all of them that exist? I mean, there's a
Okay.
lot of them out there.
Well, I'm not a great person to ask only because I'm not familiar with. I've never seen any of the old TV
The old
shows, the
TV
old George Reeves stuff. Never heard any of the radio stuff. I mean, and I'm sure I wouldn't have chosen that anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know it kind of as a comparison. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm almost defaulting to this because Superman Returns should have been great. I know people don't really talk about it much, but I think it should have been very good, and it looked pretty good. But
Well,
it was just a lousy movie.
Well, it was just a complete ripoff. It was not a complete ripoff, but it was just a 2-hour homage to this movie.
yeah,
Like everything, like even Brandon Routh's performance of Superman Clark Kent was just a ripoff of, not a ripoff, but just a,
well, it was like, let's see. Everyone was impressed with how good of a Christopher Reeves Brandon Routh was, and it's like, did we need to do that?
yeah.
And since I despised Man of Steel, I found it incredibly boring and underwhelming. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah,
So,
I found it just loud.
it was very loud.
With homeless Superman listening to Pearl Jam as he's going up north fighting polar bears.
I would watch a whole movie of that. just Superman and Eddie Vedder fighting polar bears,
I only say that because
fighting the mole man.
yeah, fighting the moment. No, I mean, there's so many iterations. Like I've seen the old George Reeves stuff. Like watching it at Nick at Night, late. They're not great.
I'm sure they're not.
It's all the same. It's the Superman shows up, and then a bunch of burglars shoot at him.
Yeah.
And the bullets go flying everywhere, and then they throw the gun at him. Every episode, it's the same damn thing. And I think Seinfeld does a bit about it where he says, these guys are shooting, and then they throw the gun at Superman, and Superman ducks out of the way of the gun. Like, what? Why are you ducking away from the gun?
Just let it hit you.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it would actually
He
hurt.
hurt. Yeah.
George Reeves.
Yeah. But it was interesting at the time, and I'm not a big radio serial fan. I know there's some people who really like old serials.
Those are the kind of people who listen to a lot of jazz because they want old people to like them.
I guess it's
They want old people to think they're cool.
I don't know off the top of my head. My favorite Superman is probably I've always liked the animated Superman. Like the Max Fleischer cartoons I think are beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm
not gonna say the Super Friends.
but it's so fun. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
That I've probably seen every single one of multiple times, and they are just bewildering.
Curse you, Superman!
They are bewildering and amazing.
Yes.
And I love them, but I'm probably not gonna pick those.
Meanwhile, Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern have been turned into gorillas. It's like, I thought they were amazing.
Meanwhile, back at the Harlem Globetrotters game.
Batman is playing with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Jesus.
I think probably my favorite has been the Superman the animated series from the 1990s. I've often said that like the Batman animated series is my Batman. I was still a little too young to really get the 1989 Batman, and Batman devolved so badly. But during that time period, during the 90s, I always liked the Batman the animated series.
Yeah,
and the same thing is Superman the animated series was always kind of.
I didn't like the Superman animated series. I think because the characters aren't as compelling as the ones in Batman. The villains aren't as good.
Well,
the heroes aren't really as good. I think as interesting as with as much depth. And I felt like their style, like every character was drawn in the exact same way, which I found
the Bruce Timm style. Yeah,
kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And I never thought Lois was particularly likable.
That whole style, of the entire animated universe, it looks the same.
No, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It's like my dad commenting on a Monet. How come you can't just draw it like how it looks?
No. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, Superman, everybody,
the strong chins,
the strong jaw, and the big
upper body. Yeah.
And then every woman always looked the same. They had these big, sexy doe eyes, and then they were like these.
So Lois Lane, played by Dana Delaney, the star of China Beach.
Exactly.
And the Superman was played by not Steven Weber. It was the other Tim Daly from Wings.
Oh, nice.
Why do I know so?
I remember Dana Delaney. I did not remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I think just because I'm never really into Superman, so it was not my jam.
I was at least a little old when it came out. I think it came out in 95, 96.
Yeah,
and I was already
15
at the time. Yeah, but I mean, there was no real Superman.
Batman was great.
Yeah,
Batman was awesome. The animated series. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, I went to I saw Superman 4: The Quest for Peace in the theater, the great Cannon film, the film that killed Cannon. And I gotta say, I was, even as like a 7-year-old, I was like, really? This is what we're doing now? Okay, guy with fingernails. All right. Yes. All right. So, any final thoughts on the Superman movie? I kind of agree that people who are currently doing DC movies need to watch this movie.
Yeah, they could learn a lot. They could learn a lot about what makes Superman fun to watch and what makes him not fun to watch.
I always feel like the people who watch movies like this get the wrong message. Like Christopher Nolan probably watched this movie and said, people like 2.5-hour movies. That's what they like.
You're not listening, sir.
Yes. I think it's just like, you can have a light tone. You got to remember, these characters come out of the 1930s. They come out of the 1940s. It's a different time period. They don't necessarily jive well with this modern post 9/11 way of thinking that we have. So, I mean, watching the preview for Batman v Superman that just debuted not too long ago, I'm just like, what? Why is Superman crying? What's going on?
I don't know.
And everyone's like, are you excited for that movie? I'm like, not really.
Yeah. Kind of dreading it a little bit.
I am too, because I'm like, this is going to kill it. This is going to kill it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, meanwhile, you have these amazing, like, Marvel movies where everyone's happy or, like, lighthearted.
Yeah.
Almost to the point of, like, too fluffy.
Yeah. And Marvel won't stop until they've got a movie coming out every single weekend. And the rest of the nights of the week, we have to watch at least one Marvel show on TV.
Yeah.
They will not be satisfied until the only thing that we can put in our eyeballs is Marvel properties.
Yeah, as long as they're the same quality as Daredevil, I'll be okay with the TV shows. Maybe not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but if it's Daredevil quality, I'll watch it. Yeah, so, I mean, what grade would you give it? You know what? I want to change up the grading system we do. We normally do 10 stars. I want to change it to an A through F grade.
Oh, an A through F grade? Okay.
Yeah, with pluses and minuses.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I have I mentally, I think I have an approximation of what my consistent scale is.
IRL, I'm a teacher, so
Yeah.
I generally tend to think in grading scales like this.
I'm
What would you give the 1978 Superman?
gonna give it a B+.
I'm gonna give it a solid B.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of when it came out, I think there was Entertainment Weekly sometimes does we're going back and revisiting this and giving it a grade based upon now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give it a grade probably in terms of its canon. I'm gonna give it a B, but in terms of in terms of when it came out, and I'm gonna give it a B, but in terms of its impact and how it kind of holds up, I'm gonna give it a B-.
Okay.
Just because I'm gonna give it a C+.
This is very complex grade.
I know. A C+, just because they had their heart in the right, they had their heart and their mind in the right direction. It's just that end sequence, and there was no through line throughout the entire thing. It was just kind of like a series of vignettes of Superman. There was no A plot, B plot, straight through. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel on it.
My son, it is forbidden for you to interfere in human business.
One thing I do know, son, and that is you are here for a reason.
All those things I can do, all those powers, and I couldn't even save him.
Go to planetarbitrary.com for all your Planet Arbitrary needs. You can follow us on Twitter at Planet Arbitrary. You can follow Kevin at
K White Says.
Like our Facebook page, /Planet Arbitrary. The best thing you could do for the podcast is to like, comment, and subscribe on iTunes. You could also listen to this podcast on our YouTube channel, on the Game Classy YouTube channel, because I don't have a Planet Arbitrary one for some odd reason. But for the other podcasts that I do, Game Classy, where you could also listen to at the Planet Arbitrary Network, that's all on tabletop games. And you could also listen to the Play On podcast, which is all about video games. So, Kevin, until the next podcast.
Guilty.